Hello, you're watching Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie State.
Good morning to you. It is 8:34. It's been 1 year since an intruder entered a secondary school in Slough. He was armed with a knife and claimed to have a gun, and it forced students and staff into lockdown.
Throughout the ordeal, it was the actions of quick-thinking head teacher Ciran Stapleton which have been credited with ensuring the safety of everyone on site until armed officers arrived. Our reporter Tim Muffet has been to meet him.
So on that day, it's about break time. That means
it's almost 1 year since head teacher Ciran Stapleton found himself, his staff and his students in a terrifying situation.
one of our team from the office came through and alerted me the fact that an intruder had entered onto the premises. Our intruder was literally right in front of us here at the end of this corridor. Now at that point, one of my other colleagues revealed that he'd actually said that he had a gun with him. This guy was really edgy, really jumpy. He had kind of a man bag wrapped around his body. He had his hand within that bag and certainly shaped as if he was carrying some kind of firearm, but it's very quickly pointed and quite erratically around. What he started saying at the same time was talking about the end of the world and about how he was going to finish it all. At some point, wires started to come out of this bag, and then there was a light within it that we could see shining out, like a red light shining out of it. And that's when we thought, well, he's either got a gun or he could have his finger on some kind of detonator at some point.
Did you actually think you might be about to die?
I remember going through my head, well, here we go, this is it. This is going to happen. This is really going to happen.
It turned out the intruder hadn't been carrying a gun or explosives, but had been carrying a large knife. Coincidentally, the school had practiced going into lockdown in a similar scenario 2 weeks before. Chris Robinson was teaching students in a nearby classroom.
Everyone had to get under their desks, lock and secure the room. It's absolute silence and making sure that everyone is calm. It'd be very easy to panic in a situation like that if you don't have really strong procedures. And we're all really confident in what to do in a situation like that.
At the end of the day, what we ended up dealing with was with a young man who was really hurting, who needed to be listened to, didn't feel loved, and consequently was willing to kind of really take that out. And that's really what the root, I think, of this potential situation was. And so that's how we came into sort of contact with Mark, really, and the Ciran Prince Foundation.
Ciran Prince was stabbed and killed in 2006, aged 15.
I think if you're dealing with symptoms, how do you tackle the real illness, right?
His dad Mark is a former light heavyweight boxing champion and has received an OBE for his work in tackling youth violence.
And when my son died and I had to bury him, put him in a coffin, bruv, and put him in the ground, there's something that I had to do. There's a part that I had to play. If young people don't know how their minds work and how they can become their greater version of themselves by the way that they think, then they're going to be trapped in a lot of the traps I fell in. Because a lot of the young people are hurting just like I was when I was growing up. Issues stemmed from how I felt about me.
I think it was empowering. I thought to myself, maybe I was lucky where I am right now, where I've kept a good life. But there's other children out there that may not be as lucky as me. And it empowered me to maybe go on and try and help.
We're trying to fit into a mold we've seen on social media, right?
All of us have been affected by this massively. I think it's inspired us to help the younger generation, because I think all of us here have got younger siblings, and I think we care about them massively, and we want them to do good, not only just them, ourselves.
When we go out and represent our family, we're a brand.
The most powerful message I got out of the talk with Mark was probably about the mind and how a lot of issues do arise from the mind and how you think.
How we're tackling it. My son was an absolute awesome individual. Killers come along, taking him, his whole future. And I always go around teaching the power of choice, and I want schools to open their doors. It's not enough being done.
In this school, a year ago, tragedy was thankfully avoided. But there is determination here to empower young people to make the right choices in life. Tim Muffet, BBC News.
It's an extraordinary story, and you can see Ciran Stapleton, head teacher of St Joseph's Catholic High School, is with us now. Morning to you. And alongside him, Mark Prince, founder of the Ciran Prince Foundation, as you saw, works with young people on youth violence. You're both very welcome this morning. Now, I suspect that you'll say that it's part of your job sometimes to do something like this, but it's not normal. And in that moment in time, a lot must have been going through your head, as you described in that film.
It's funny, when these things kind of cut in, you kind of resort back to the sort of basic training that you have. So something's happened within the school, you just have to respond. At the time when we heard something had gone astray, we didn't quite realise straight away the significance or the danger that might have actually sort of been prevalent until we got into the situation itself.
And how do you, and now, I mean, I don't know if you actually watched that piece back and you, people like us are asking you questions about how you handled it and whatever. How do you look back on it? Presumably, it's traumatic. It is traumatic. You know, you obviously did remarkable things in the moment and got everything right. But that doesn't change the principle that something like that happening in your school is traumatic.
It's quite funny because teachers will always be dealing with children who at their very best, but also perhaps at their most distressed, and particularly with parents as well. So we're pretty used to dealing with people who might be not at their best at that time. This turned out to be a little bit more than what we'd ever be used to in that case. So normally within a situation like this, where we confront someone who was looking really edgy, really erratic, we're usually pretty good at being able to kind of cajole them back or talk them back to a place or get them into a better place. The situation here, though, became very, very difficult very quickly. So with the normal kind of sort of speaking and the talking or the calming down of the situation that we do at the time, suddenly realised it just wasn't working, and this character was burying himself further and further and further into the school rather than actually being able to sort of cajole him out, get him somewhere out of the sort of, area where there were lots of students and lots of staff in at the time, particularly our lesson transition turnover at that point.
Mark, what did you think when you heard about this? It was almost a year ago today when this happened.
Sadly, for me, we get a lot of calls, not so much of people coming into school, but it reminded me of a school that called us in when one of their children was stabbed just outside the school gates. I'll never forget their young boy, beautiful young boy, Casey, down at Parkview School, and he ended up getting killed right outside, but they called me in to help with all the effects of the children that was like the fallout after what they witnessed. And there's a lot of PTSD and a lot of kids affected their mental health. So we were able to work with them children so they could finish their exams, finish their school year, because there was truancy and, just their behavior just went left. So we really supported them, helped them throughout the year, and they was able to go through their exams and pass.
And is that what kind of went through your mind when you heard about this incident?
Straight away, because it could have been a whole lot worse. So, individuals like Ciran, head teachers, what you got to understand, they're human beings. A lot of you students don't really see teachers like that. It's like
they're monsters that tell us what to do, la-di-da, yeah.
But in reality, they're parents, they're people that have got families and they care about the children. And Ciran showed that in the way that he addressed this individual and just tackled it and allowed the guy to understand that he didn't need to act in this way and gave him enough time for the police to step in.
Ciran, what you were referencing there was the ripple down, the trickle down effect that an incident like this can have. Have you witnessed that in I know you're working together now on things. Have you witnessed that in the children in your school? I'm saying children for a reason. They're young people, you can use terminology. Have you seen that? Have you witnessed them? Some of that passing down?
Well, that's interesting. We survey our students every term about where they're at and how they feel about the school, and we've still got a number of children who still feel really concerned about it. We ask them about their safety within the school. We've still got a small but fairly significant number of children who are really considered to be worried about it, worried that it could happen again, and that's an ongoing concern.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was just going to ask Mark, do you think Ciran did the right thing?
100%. The first thing he's gonna care about is the children. So he's gonna put himself in the firing line.
When you went home and spoke to your family about it, did they think that you did the right thing?
First thing I did, I phoned my wife and said, I think I need to tell you something's at school today, and she just thought the worst. And then, God love her, my poor wife, when I sort of said what had happened, because I really didn't think about it very much, really. It just sort of seemed to be something you just kind of do. You know, there's a situation, you just kind of have to go to it, sort it out, calm it down. And but only when I started speaking to about other people, it was other people's reaction that actually sort of made me think, actually, maybe there was a bit more to it. So her first reaction just started crying on the phone. Of course. That just made me feel a bit emotional about it, you know. But we hadn't really it's very difficult to sort of realise, to see it from outside of the situation. So when it happened, because I was there and I was kind of, I wouldn't say, hopefully in control about as much of it as you could be, I kind of knew what was happening, but it was everybody else who was outside of the situation, who'd been locked down at the time, who didn't know what was going on. That would have been where the more difficulty might be.
Can I just say that I think it's really important that we haven't brought up the relationship that is created with the Kyan Prince Foundation and the school, and what me and Ciran's been talking about is that need for that support system that a lot of schools need but don't have. The teachers need support with the children and how they're developing their mindset, and it's great that they focus on education and academics, but there's another side that Ciran's been talking about that we've added to the school, and that is that mindset, the self-development, the mental health, the assurity about your self-belief, your self-confidence.
And you've seen that work firsthand.
We've seen that work firsthand, and Ciran can share with you from the assembly, and now they're allowing us to come in and deliver a 12-week program, which is supporting the children throughout the process, helping them to understand that you can, regardless of your environment, regardless of your background, you can become successful and do really well. And I think that's really important for young people to understand.
It is a very important message. And also, from the film, Ciran, I know your sort of compassion for the who did this, immediate, was remarkable, because almost the first thing you said is that we're dealing with someone who's hurting and who's not right. And I think that's a big takeaway from this as well. It's been really interesting talking to you. Back in school today?
Yeah, I'll be back
for a nice, calm day.
Hopefully everything's going good.
Good to meet you both.
And with your work, Mark, good luck as well, Ciran.
Yeah,
Mark,
thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Thank you.